It was almost midnight when the front door finally opened. I was sitting in the living room, lights dim, TV on, but muted. Not because I was watching anything, but because lately, silence had started to feel a little too loud. Then she walked in, laughing, still on her phone, still carrying that same energy from her girls' night. Yeah, I'll text you tomorrow. Okay, bye, she said, smiling as she ended the call. She stepped inside, kicked off her heels, and looked at me. Now, normally, this is the moment where I'd get up. I'd smile, walk over, ask her how her night went. Maybe grab her a glass of water. Maybe sit next to her and listen to every little detail. That's what I always did. That's what she expected. But this time, I didn't move. I just looked at her and said calmly, "Hope you had a good night." That's it. No excitement, no questions, no extra effort, just simple. And for the first time, she noticed the difference. She paused for a second, like something didn't feel right. Yeah, it was fun, she said slowly. She was waiting for me to ask more, but I didn't. I leaned back into the couch and looked at the TV again. And in that moment, something shifted. At first, she tried to ignore it. She walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, then closed it again without taking anything. Came back into the living room, glanced at me once, then again. "You didn't even ask where we went," she finally said. Her voice wasn't angry, it was confused. I shrugged slightly. "You were out. I figured you had fun." Now that answer, it didn't sit well with her because it wasn't me. The version of me she was used to would have asked everything. Where she went, who she was with, what they talked about. Every small detail, not because I didn't trust her, but because I cared, or at least, that's what I thought. But somewhere along the way, I realized something. I wasn't just caring. I was overgiving. I was putting in effort, hoping to feel valued in return. And slowly, without even noticing, that balance disappeared. She sat down across from me. "Why are you acting weird?" she asked. I looked at her, not angry, not upset, just calm. "I'm not acting weird," I said quietly. "I'm just not overdoing things anymore." And that right there, that hit harder than any argument ever could, because it wasn't emotional, it was controlled. And when someone who's always been giving suddenly becomes calm and measured, it creates a different kind of tension. "What does that even mean?" she asked, crossing her arms. I took a breath. "It means I realized I've been putting in more energy than I should. And I don't think that's healthy." Now she was really listening, not casually, not half-interested, fully present. "You're saying I don't put in effort?" she asked. I didn't rush to answer. "I'm saying I stopped expecting things. Silence, because expectations are funny like that. You don't notice them until they disappear. And when they do, everything feels different." The room felt heavier now. Not with anger, but with realization. She softened a little. "You could have just told me if something was bothering you," she said. I nodded. "You're right." And I meant it. But then I added something that changed everything. But I also realized I shouldn't have to ask for basic effort. That wasn't an accusation. That was clarity. And clarity is hard to argue with. She looked down for a moment. That confident, carefree energy she walked in with earlier, it was gone. "Girls' night wasn't anything serious," she said quietly. "We just went out, talked, laughed. That's it." "I know," I replied. "And that's okay." Then I looked at her and said something simple, but real. "But what happens when you come home matters too." And that's when it clicked for her. This wasn't about where she went. It wasn't about control. It wasn't even about that night. It was about something deeper, conscience, effort, presence. Because what you bring back into a relationship after being away says everything. Do you come back with warmth, with attention, with genuine interest? Or do you just exist in the same space? She slowly moved closer and sat beside me. I didn't realize you felt like that, she said. And for the first time that night, there was no defensiveness in her voice, just honesty. I didn't either, I replied softly. And that's the problem. We sat there quietly for a few seconds. But this silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was understanding. The kind of silence where both people are finally seeing something clearly. So, what now? She asked. I smiled a little, not the old eager smile, but something calmer. Now we do better, I said. Both of us. No drama, no shouting, no blaming, just awareness. Because sometimes relationships don't break from one big moment, they fade. From small imbalances that go unnoticed, until one day, someone stops overgiving. And that silence, that change, that calm distance, it speaks louder than anything else. That night, I didn't fight. I didn't chase. I didn't try to prove a point. I just showed her what it feels like when the effort becomes equal. And that changed everything. Because sometimes, the strongest move you can make isn't saying more. It's doing less and letting the difference be felt.